Hi guys, Michael Abayomi here. So I just got done watching the third episode of House of the Dragon Season 2, titled The Burning Mill. Needless to say, I have thoughts to share about the various events that took place within the episode. So we pretty much already know the drill by now. There are going to be spoilers for the episode ahead, as well as spoilers for everything that's happened in House of the Dragon up to this point. So viewer beware. So the episode pretty much kicks off with what can be considered the first battle of this Dance of the Dragons. And here we have the Brackens and the Blackwoods, which are two houses that have been on opposing sides of the Riverlands. And what starts off looking like a simple skirmish ends up in full-on bloodshed. So this is one thing I like about House of the Dragon so far, and even by extension Game of Thrones. The fact that they take the time to show us the ramifications of all the things happening with the Highborns, with all the lords at King's Landing. You see how all those decisions about this war that is about to happen, how everything trickles down to the common man, to the lowborn guys, to the actual people that will be fighting in this war. And here we actually get to see that effect on these two houses that, granted, they already established that they've been feuding for as long as they could remember. But just because of the recent events, they are now on opposite sides of this conflict, and you could just see how everything is materializing on this level. And that's just one detail that I really appreciate about this show. But over at Dragonstone, Rhaenyra and the rest of her court are busy mourning the death of Sir Eric and by extension his brother Arik. And while this is going on, we have Rhaenys coming to counsel Rhaenyra just in a bit to try and convince her to avoid further bloodshed in this war that is going to be very bloody. She tells her that she should try and reach out to Alicent, since Alicent seemed a bit receptive to the idea of avoiding as much bloodshed as possible. And here Rhaenys really gives a poignant speech that I felt really speaks to the nature of war, that all-consuming nature of war. The fact that most conflicts go on for so long that you can't even point to the genesis. And she really drives home this point, which just shows why Rhaenys is actually one of the wisest and most seasoned members of the stacked cast in House of the Dragon. Elsewhere, we finally get some clarity on exactly what Daemon was planning to do, and it turns out that, just like he had said in the last episode, he was riding for Harrenhal to try and rally the troops over there. And we get this breathtaking scene where we see him storming the castle in the middle of night with his dragon Caraxes, and I just have to say that this scene was one of the most beautifully shot scenes I've seen thus far this season. Which I know, like when you look at all the exquisite locations, all the expertly crafted cinematography that is on display, it's very hard to pick one that really stands out. But this was a scene that I have to say that really sticks out in your mind even long after watching it, because it just had this lightning storm going on in the background and this dark atmosphere. It was almost like a horror film. Like that entire sequence was shot like a horror film. But ironically enough, he actually doesn't meet any resistance, as the people in Harrenhal pretty much swear they are fealty to House Black immediately. But Daemon is kind of skeptical, seeing that things might not be as they appear. And later on, we see him having a vision where he sees a young Rhaenyra tending to the wounds of a dead Prince Jaehaerys. And I just have to say that it was nice seeing Millie Alcock make a return, even though it was just a brief flashback, because one of the reasons why Rhaenyra is my favorite character today was due to her portrayal of the young version of Rhaenyra. And it was just nice seeing the actress make a return, which was kind of unexpected, but it was also welcome at the same time. But Daemon eventually wakes up from this vision, and he is told by one of the maidens in Harrenhal that he's going to die there. So I don't know, this seems like a lot of foreshadowing in my opinion, but basically they're alluding to some kind of tragedy awaiting to befall him in the upcoming conflict. We'll find out soon enough, I guess, but this was a very ominous moment, and I'm sure it's one that is going to have more clarity over the course of the coming episodes. Over at King's Landing, news of the skirmish between the Brackens and the Blackwoods reached the King's Court, and even though Lord Jasper tries to downplay this as yet another skirmish between the two sides, Aegon pretty much saw it as the start of the war, this all-out war that he's been very hungry for. And we have Criston Cole suggesting that in order to get both sides on board with Team Green, he should ride there with some of his men in a bid to take Harrenhal. So it appears that Daemon is not the only one with his sights set on the important stronghold. And while King Aegon is eager to ride with him into battle, he's later counseled by Lord Larys, and this is another thing I really like about House of the Dragon and by extension Game of Thrones, because you have all these characters that, even though they might do despicable things and you come to despise them over time, they still manage to show that they have some certain strengths. And a character like Lord Larys, it's obvious that his strength lies in his way with words. So you could see how he could use this deceptive nature of his to be able to convince the king without directly giving him a command that he shouldn't go on this battle. He was just able to like sow some words into his heart, and because of that, the king makes the decision not to ride with him, and he even earns Lord Larys the official position of Master of Whisperers. So I'm not saying that I'm starting to dig the character, but at least I appreciate the fact that they're showing that the character has certain attributes that make him an asset to Team Green. Going back to Dragonstone, word of Kristen Cole's plans to ride to Harrenhal eventually reaches Rhaenyra's council, and her top advisors immediately urge her to strike first with her dragons. But Rhaenyra resists, being that she doesn't want the bloodshed to escalate even further. So she ends up taking Rhaenys' words to heart instead and devises a way to reach out to Alicent. And in the climatic moments of the episode, we see Rhaenyra sneaking into King's Landing under the guise of a woman of faith, and she's able to get access to the septum where Queen Alicent usually comes to pray regularly. And there she approaches her with a desire to bring an end to the war without the need for further bloodshed. And while they're talking about all the events that have transpired and how things spawned into motion in the first place, they get on the topic of King Viserys' last words. And here, Rhaenyra finally gets to learn what had happened and the way Alicent had mistakenly taken what the dying king had said to mean that he wanted Aegon instead. And even though Rhaenyra tries to set her straight at this point, it was just obvious that ship had already sailed. There was really nothing that could be done now. There was no backing down. Too many lives had been lost to this cause, and Alicent leaves her with that knowledge that they were on a set path for all-out war. So looking at this episode as a whole, it was another showcase for all the strengths of the show. We had all the tense character moments, as well as all the revelations that were made, and yeah, very sure that all of these revelations are going to have wide-reaching ramifications, because we could already even see how the things that are happening in the King's Court are affecting the everyday man. Basically, this episode was just another way to move the overall story forward, which they've been doing excellently. And I got a chance to look at the preview for the next episode, and I just have to say that anyone that is still doubting that this war hasn't started, just looking at that preview, it is clear that we're in the thick of it right now. That this war, this bloodshed between both sides has started, and for anybody that hasn't yet sworn their allegiance, it is now or never, because the war is now at everybody's doorsteps. Anyway, these are just my thoughts about the third episode of House of the Dragon Season 2. What did you think about the episode? Were you impressed by the breathtaking sequence where Daemon storms Harrenhal? Or were there any other highlights you would like to talk about? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed watching this discussion, and to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on if you'd like to see more discussions like this in the future. And until the next one, this is Michael, signing off.